It is 5:15 on Monday, May 22nd, 2017, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note the attendance. All are present except for Misty Bass, Councilman Bass. And our first item that I'd like to take this time now is to recognize Mark Thompson. Mark, come forward, 19 years of service as a waste plant operator. Wastewater operator, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got a black for you. Oh, okay. You know you had a speed training.
I didn't know what was going to come on.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Oh, there we go. Oh, here, you can hold that up.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That was a good opportunity and enjoyed it. And we're just going to take a new chapter down in Branson, Missouri now and see where that leads us. So
Very good. Appreciate all your years of service.
yeah, thanks a lot.
And the fourth thing we've got is the introduction of our new library director, Rachel Van Erdewick. Rachel, thank you for applying and accepting the new position.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So.
The next item we'll take up is the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes of the May 8th meeting, approval of bills and claims, approval of a new 5-day Class C liquor license with outdoor service, Rock and Ride Kick the Can Incorporated for the Carroll Cycle Center, June 2nd, 2016, or it should be 2017. And the following appointments to the Parks and Recs Board, Lois New, Clay Natusel, and Ryan Milligan. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischer?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for items that are not on the agenda? If not, we will move to ordinances, and seeing none, we will move to our resolutions. And our first resolution this evening is the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget amendment number 2, and it is 5:18, and I will open a public hearing. And Laura.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included with your packet of information is a lot of the same information from last council meeting that lists out the items that are included in this budget amendment. The notice of the public hearing was published on Thursday, May 11th in accordance with Iowa code requirements. Just a quick, brief discussion of the items. The main ones were additional expense for street lighting as a result of the changeover with the new LED lights, as well as some additional fees for a contract that council entered into with OPN Architects to move along with the library project, Library City Hall project. And then a lot of transfers from one fund to another as a statutory requirement. A lot of the monies are required to be deposited into a certain fund and then can be transferred to another fund for expenditure purposes. Are there any other specific questions about the items that are included?
Are there any questions from the audience? There are no other questions. It's 5:19. I'll close the public hearing. And if there are no other questions, I'll need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget amendment number 2.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleschner?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda under resolutions is the fiscal year 2018 health insurance renewal. And Mike. Or is Laura? Laura,
I'll
sorry.
give a brief introduction. This is the time of year that we take a look at a health insurance renewal. We have been with Wellmark for a number of years. We have Debbie Dean with BSI, or Benefit Source Incorporated, here to discuss further information. There was a little bit of background information included with the memo, and I'll let Debbie take it over from here.
Okay, thank you, Laura. If I may, let me hand these to you and pass these out. This is the same format that we have used each year to talk about the health insurance renewal. And this year, our situation is such that although we looked at our current plan and analyzed the opportunities that we received from Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield to renew with that plan, we also looked at a higher deductible option. So as all of you know, I believe all of you know, we purchase a plan with a higher deductible and then partially self-fund that to a lower level for the employee. Lower deductible, lower out-of-pocket, and lower copay. Well, this year we have an opportunity to purchase a higher deductible, a $5,000 deductible, and this presents itself very nicely with our health insurance and how well we have been running really for the last 6 to 7 years. And so we believe that moving to the $5,000 deductible and partially self-funding the same level for the employee makes tremendous sense, because the amount of money that we believe we will have to spend to partially self-fund that additional exposure is very minimal, and it allows us to forego a rate increase at Wellmark this year. And so it has all the signs of being the right time to move to this higher deductible. We have been at the present deductible level of $3,000 since the 2014 plan year, so 3 plan years, and that's run very nicely for us. The other thing that this does for us, as we look forward to future renewals from Wellmark, is by purchasing a higher deductible than the one we have today, it allows us to have the opportunity to hopefully continue to have more reasonable rates of increase in future years, because Wellmark will take on a little less risk than what they have today, and we'll take on a little more potential risk as a city. I'm sure you'd like me to make this into something much more than what it is and take another 15 to 20 minutes, but it really is, I hate to use the term more of the same, but it really is a good situation that has run very well for us for the last, as I indicated, 6 to 7 years, and so we're simply moving to the next conservative, methodical step, which is to buy a slightly higher deductible and a slightly higher out-of-pocket maximum.
I'm sorry, when was the last time we changed that?
2014.
2014. so
We
it's
moved
been-
to a $3,000 deductible
Yeah.
in 2014. So
Okay.
this would be to move it to a $5,000 deductible.
So that'll decrease it by 6%, is that what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Which
The
if we
premium
let-
that we pay to Wellmark. And
Yeah.
of course, a portion of that is certainly offset by more partial self-funding.
Right.
But that's the piece that's unknown, and so we actuarially estimate that as absolutely close as we can, but we certainly do that on a very conservative basis.
And did we have any claims that were close to that 3,000 mark at all?
Yes,
Okay.
we certainly did, which would be expected, because a group the size of this organization is always going to have a certain percentage of claims that
We'll
get to the
that.
deductible level and to the out-of-pocket, and we take that into consideration.
So then if we left it alone, we'd end up with a 7.1% increase otherwise?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Remind us what we're self-funding, please. So we have now a $5,000 proposed individual deductible.
And we partially self-fund that down to a $500 deductible, and then we partially self-fund the out-of-pocket maximum down to $1,000 for any person on a single plan or one member of a family plan. And then an entire family is 2 times the single deductible and 2 times the single out-of-pocket.
I'm glad you point that out. That's an important factor, is that a family could potentially see double those numbers.
Correct, correct.
Before
Thank
it
you.
was 3 and 6,000, did you ever have anybody hit that 6,000?
Absolutely.
Okay. How many do we have?
Well,
Just offhand.
I would say offhand, probably 10% hit the 6,000, but don't hold me to that without
Okay,
referring back
that's
to
close
my
enough.
notes.
The only extra risk we, as a city, will take here is the difference between $3,000 and $5,000 per person.
The only additional risk, that's right. And it's actually not that high because right now, even though we purchase a $3,000 deductible, we purchase a $6,350 out-of-pocket maximum, which includes the $3,000 deductible. And so that $6,350 goes to $7,150. So we really only take on an additional $800 of total exposure for any one member.
Any other questions for Debbie?
Do you see this being increased? Oh, how do I want to word this? More companies and businesses going to this route if they're self-funded?
Oh, this is absolutely very mainstream for organizations
Okay.
of your size.
Okay.
You have the expected deductible and co-insurance expense at $131,497. Do you know what it was for this last year,
What it was expected to be,
or what it actually was?
well, if you look up here at the very top and then look under the current rate environment, and you will see the expected HRA expense of $56,858. That is 10 months worth of hard data, and then averaged and annualized for the remainder of the plan year, which would be 2 additional months. So that gives you a pretty good idea of what we looked like in 2016-17.
Looking at the current rates, with the renewal rates, then we see that go from 56,000 to 151,000.
Well, that's because we always take a conservative approach when we do the expectations for the upcoming plan year. It would be nice if we just forever ran underneath the expected exposure, but I don't ever want to put you in a position of having a surprise. And so we truly look at what we think the expected exposure could be. So it's not a funny number. It's, a true expectation in 2017-18. Obviously with the hope that we continue to run reasonably well as we have.
So then why is there a variance from that top chart down to the partial self-funding analysis? The 151 to...
Well, because down below, you have it broken out by office visit and pharmacy cost and medical deductible, as opposed to one lump sum figure.
Thank you. Perfect. Well, this is just like every year at my business. This still sucks, but thanks for bringing us something that is able to be lived with.
Thank you. It with hope, will turn out to be another reasonable year. But again, we want to make sure that we look at these numbers carefully each and every year and not make assumptions that this coming year will be like last year. We want you to know what you need to be prepared for.
And you're with Benefit Source?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you're admitting all this for us for the $2,545?
No, sir.
No, I was wondering about that.
That's the third-party administrator who handles your partial self-funding claims,
Okay.
so that it's completely autonomous and outside of the city
Right.
in order to be in compliance with it.
Okay, and that's a different company yet that
Yes,
manages
sir.
that?
Yes.
We buy it through you, and you...
You buy it
have
from Walmart through us.
Right.
Along with your flexible spending and your partial self-funding, and then we manage all of those vendors for you.
Very good, and then so that I thought was an important point. I mean, at $2,545 for administration of that for a year, I don't think you want to do it for that, do you, Laura?
No.
No. That's a nebulous mess. That's pretty cheap admin. Thanks.
Thank
I'll
you.
leave you alone now.
No, that's fine, that's why I'm here.
Any other questions for Debbie or Laura? If not, I'll need a motion to enter into a contract with Wellmark for health insurance benefits with a deductible of $5,000 single, $10,000 family out-of-pocket expense maximum to $7,150 single and $14,300 family.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
sir.
time again.
Thank you.
Our third item on the agenda is the Library City Hall project, and Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do my best to kind of summarize it, but there's a lot of stuff to go through this evening. Kind of some background first. Since February of last year, when Commercial Savings Bank made their generous offer to donate their existing facility to facilitate the expansion of the library, the city's been working to develop a plan on how best to use that site in order to meet that objective. In June of last year, the city entered into a professional service agreement with OPN to look at that, and they did complete a concept plan that was presented to council on December 12th of last year. That concept plan included two different concepts. First, it moved Concept A, which moved city administrative functions to the Commercial Savings Bank site and left the library here at the Farner Government Building. And Concept B moved the library to the Commercial Savings Bank site, leaving city administrative functions here. On December 27th, the council selected Concept A as their preferred concept. And since that time, staff has been working with OPN architects and other stakeholders to identify ways to lower the overall project cost, finalize renderings and floor plans for the projects, and to prepare the project for a possible referendum. There are 6 items this evening before the council for your consideration. I'm not going to go into great deal on all of them, but in general, the first in your packet is to consider approving final renderings and floor plans for the Library City Hall project. And we do have boards. We'll present that after I finish. OPN will come up and just present those. Second is to receive an memo from OPN architects with possible cost reductions and revised overall estimated project costs. That's included in your packet, that memo. Third is to consider approving a resolution setting the overall budget for the project at $6.8 million. And to kind of tie number 2 and 3 together, OPN did provide that memo that identified potential cost savings between $355,000 and $415,000. They have not went into great detail or schematic design at this point, and that's a process we wouldn't undertake before you go to referendum, but it's their best estimate at this time. Additionally, from staff's perspective, we have over $700,000 in contingencies in the project. Why architects don't like you to mention that number, I think with both the identified cost savings and the contingencies, staff is comfortable with recommending a $6.8 million project to council. And that would be the total project cost, including construction costs, soft costs, and professional fees, furnishings, and all other associated costs with the project. So we do have a resolution for your consideration to approve tonight. But with that $6.8 million, that would set a budget of $3.8 million for bond proceeds, $2.5 million from donations from the Carroll Library Foundation, and then $500,000 in local option sales tax. The fourth item in the packet is a letter from Bill Noth, our bond counsel with the city, giving his opinion on the use of local option sales tax for the City Hall project. So you're asked to receive that as part of this. The fifth item for your consideration is to consider approving a property gift agreement between the city and Commercial Savings Bank for their property at 627 North Adams Street. And the final item for your consideration tonight is to consider approving a resolution calling for a special city election. And in your packet, the date tentatively presented is August 1st. With that, we do recommend that the council consider these items and to consider taking action on them. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And why don't we take this moment that OPN can show the renderings and floor plans for the project.
You guys, how do you want us to set this up? We got 4 boards.
Can you do them one at a time, or you do them all at once?
We have plans, we can talk about the plans
Okay.
first, and then we can show the renderings.
Okay.
That way.
And I would note for council, these are the same plans that were
Same
included
plans
in
that
your
we got in
packet.
that packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. So maybe just a touch of background on how we got to the plans and renderings that you're seeing tonight. We asked, the last time we were here with council, for a steering committee to be created, which we later got help from the city, and that committee was created. So we've met with them a couple of times and gone through all this information in great detail around the plans, the graphics, the clarity of those, any comments or questions that they had, as well as the renderings that you'll see here shortly. So the 2 sets of plans, you'll see on the left the City Hall and on the right the library. I'll go through them just really briefly, high-level detail. So on the left side, Joe, maybe you can point while I'm talking. On the left side of the library plan, you can see the children's area, that whole zone. The community room that's down to the bottom left corner that's in blue. The staff area is in green behind the circulation desk. Maybe point to the
So
circulation
that's like
desk
number
as well.
11?
Yeah.
Is that number 11 up there? Okay.
Correct.
10 and 11.
We've got the makerspace, which is just off of the main lobby entrance, the main lobby itself, and then the adult area, which is split between the first and second floor. So the adult area, if you want to point to that, on the first floor. And then the teen area behind that. And then the upstairs, do you want to just point to the upper level adult areas for me? With the stair that connects those 2 zones, first to second floor. And that's, in a nutshell, the library plan.
Yeah, and also with those plans, these are based on the same concept
Concept
A
A.
diagram that we did back on December 12th. So the plans have not changed from the original concept. Just a little bit more detail.
In the city hall plans, again, these are the same as seen in concept A, with a little more detail and graphics added just for clarity and understandability. You've got the council chambers on the bottom right in blue. You've got some back of house staff areas that wrap around, and then restrooms that are in the center. And then the upper half of the plan is the staff areas and offices, with the lobby zone that connects the 2 sides and has entrances on both sides of the building, the same as the bank today.
One thing we'll touch on these 2, when we looked at some of the cost-saving measures or targets, those things have been incorporated into these plans. So it's not a matter of, these are concept A diagrams with a few of the exceptions that we've identified in the cost savings. So things like the elevator.
And the staff
and,
entrance.
Yeah, staff entrance, separate staff restrooms and things that we identified as targets have been taken into account in these plans.
So we're making sure that the plan graphics that would go out to the public would represent the project
The
as well.
project as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the basement in this will be untouched for now?
Yes.
Okay.
Mechanical, electrical space is similar as it is today, but that would be the primary use.
Okay. But we could use that as storage or whatever we needed to do downstairs.
Yeah,
Something
obviously
like
as
that,
part of the project,
it just-
we get new mechanicals, new
Yeah.
electrical, so some of those rooms will get some work and
Okay.
they'll be touched. But as for city hall like functions, would not get pushed down into that area beyond typical storage type use.
So a lot of the basement that's there now, we won't have to do anything with,
Correct.
Right.
which would save some cost too.
Correct.
As far as construction.
Yep, and those are what we try to
Deconstruction.
identify.
Okay.
Okay, if we move to the renderings?
Any other questions on plans?
Back on the first one, the upstairs, is that where 8 is? Okay, I got the 2 tied together. Where the 8s are, then that is what sits over the top of that.
That's
the
correct.
upstairs,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, the 2 adult zones
Gotcha.
that are split. Yep.
The elevator that's there, will that be
So,
refurbished?
To just try and orient yourselves to that second floor, the stair tower in that plan
Yes.
would be where the elevator is shown.
Okay.
Point to where, there you go.
So this elevator is that stair tower. And the new stair would occur where the existing stair and elevator are. So as those two come out, we'd use those openings
Okay.
to come up with a new stair. So we're trying to limit penetrations into the second floor and limit structural changes.
What happens to old elevators like that? Just retired, no use?
Retired.
Okay.
Scrapyard.
Yeah.
Is there a staff desk upstairs, or no? We wouldn't need
No
one?
dedicated staff
No.
desk.
Okay.
There's lots of ways we handle it in other libraries, whether there's like a small kiosk area. So if they're having an interaction with the patron,
Yes.
they'd be able to go up, log into a terminal, and be able to help them on that level. Those are things that we look at.
If that's
doing on
something
second level.
that's desired by the staff.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Typically, they want staff kept in one area to help keep it centralized, and that way they can observe. That's why they're usually very centrally located, and they have visual observation over the majority of the library spaces from that point.
Yeah. And the other piece is, again, these were concept A. These have a lot of design iteration to go through schematic design, design development. There's a lot of work that we would do with staff.
To
as this goes
confirm
into
layouts.
the actual project.
With keeping the library open during this construction, could you go through the process on how you're going to do that?
I think
What-
we've,
how- what are
I
you
think
gonna-
we've got
what are you
further
gonna build
discussion that
first,
we
or-
need to have with both the city, the staff, and then as we go through the bid process, honestly, with the general contractors to talk about how they want to phase any construction work, or if there are specific parameters that we want to put in place around that phasing. So I think we've got to develop more detail around that. I know we've talked about breaking it into two parts, but how that exactly gets accomplished, I don't know that we put a lot of detail into yet.
Yeah.
I think that's something we can work towards.
There's a lot involved with that timing
Time, yeah.
of construction can play a huge impact as to whether or not we impact summer program and other things that the library, or specific things that the library sees high use. So there's a lot of factors as to how we break apart that project.
You don't ever foresee that they have to shut it down for a while?
I even think at a small scale, even small scale library renovations, carpet, paint, there'd be periods where they might have to shut down for a week or two. This one, we don't really know what the scope of that might look like until we dig in and spend a lot of time working with staff.
Well, it has to do with also where the library would reside in the interim.
Yep.
So there's a lot of factors that have to go into that analysis.
Plan questions, renderings?
Please.
So again, working with the steering committee, we came into the first meeting and we offered several different vantage points that we could show views of the library, both from the exterior and the interior, and worked with that group to determine what the most appropriate view of the building from the exterior and sitting inside the building was. So I'll start with the exterior. You can see this would be standing in the parking lot as it currently exists, looking back towards the building. This way you get a view of the changes that happen on both the north and the east sides of the building. So this worked really well for us. And then on your interior image here to the right, you're essentially standing just inside of the entry doors into the new space. Joe, do you want to point on the exterior image where that would be? So you'd be coming in the entry right there. This image would then be looking on the inside of the library at that lobby area, up towards your second floor, up that staircase, standing right next to the makerspace.
So basically in that image, the interior image, we're standing roughly just inside the lobby.
Right.
So you get an east entrance,
Yep.
entrance that faces east instead of that, okay. That'd buffer a lot from the wind.
questions on the renderings? We spent a lot of time with the steering committee talking through what was in these and how they came together, so.
Would you tell us a little bit about the stairway, please, as that's the first time a lot of folks are getting to see that?
Sure. So the stair to the second floor, we have to have 2 points of egress from a second floor area. So as you can see on the plans, you've got the stair that comes down the main lobby, and then you've got the stair that fills the existing opening that Joe was describing over on the left. So this stair, what we did was, we talked a lot about with the library when we were doing the programming, the kind of the multi-purpose spaces that are needed, multifunctional types of spaces that they would use. And for this stair, we basically just took the structure we'd already have and widened it out. That gives us the opportunity to have sort of a space that can be used for not only just lounging and general seating, but also for performances, for speaking engagements, for concerts, for children's programs. So it works in a really flexible way for them to be able to use it in a lot of different venues. And it's also just a nice gathering space within the lobby. So that's kind of the one piece of architecture that helps add a little personality to that lobby space and gives a nice visual connection to the second floor.
Currently seats about, you can seat up to about
40 to 60,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range.
Is it like a low E glass for all the amount that you've got, energy efficiency and stuff like that?
Yep.
I thought it was a tremendous use of glass. It was very eye appealing, and I think it'd be very enlightening into that building.
Yeah, one of the things that we tried to do with the overall design, and we presented a few different options when working with the steering committee about, how much glass we're showing at that main entrance versus how much glass is shown around the east and the rest of the north facade. There was a balance act. We're still trying to match Concept A and its budget, the amount of glass we're showing. In order to do a little bit more higher impact with the glass at the main entrance and that 2-story volume, we were a little concerned with glass on this level. We weren't putting any new openings on this level. So providing as much glass and getting as much natural light out of that north,
On the
and
north
then turning
side.
it back a little bit along this east side is going to be able to help get additional natural light back into this level. And in doing so, we scaled back a little bit of the openings, the more punched openings, the regular rhythm that's marching around the rest of the building. We were able to offset a little bit of those by limiting the amount of punched openings to push a little bit more glass up front.
But this plan allows us to get daylighting pushed deep into every
Further
part
into
of this
the-
building currently,
Okay.
first and second floor.
It's not feasible to put any glass on the south side of this, so you get some south sunlight.
On the second level, just
Yeah.
cost-wise.
Cost-wise, okay.
As soon as I take out one of the large precast panels, then that's
Mhm.
either a big piece of glass. All things are possible as we get into design.
Okay.
But right now, we're just concentrated on the north
Sure.
and putting it up there for higher impact.
From a daylighting standpoint, getting north light into the building is a really nice way to do it. It's a nice even light. You don't get as much direct heat gain off of the glass, so it's actually a benefit to us. And if you can see, as Joe was describing, the glass wrapping around from the north to the east, do you want to point out the interior rendering, the glass that's coming over top of the makerspace? That glass actually extends all the way back to the edge of that second floor, so you'll get light coming in that east that'll
Oh, the
flood
east,
across the
okay.
second floor. So you get direct
Okay.
access there as well.
So you get some along in there.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll get glass up and over that makerspace.
That's right. Any other questions that we can answer?
And a modern contemporary look to it. I was very eye appealing.
I'm very excited for not only the eye appeal outside, but inside. I love the use of the space with the stairway. Just to take and put so much value into an area, I thought was very impressive.
Thank you. Glad you like it.
What's come to me so far from the public, it's well received.
Oh, very good. Great. Well, thank you.
You want us to leave these up or?
Do you need them back, or?
No,
they're
no,
yours.
these are for you.
Yeah, you can just leave
Why
them
don't you put 2 over there? And
there. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Motion, start to this.
On all 6.
You want them all at once?
Separate.
Separately. Okay.
A lot.
We have the memo, receive a memo.
First one would be consider
We just
accepting
want
the
to consider the
renderings.
renderings. Are there any questions with regard to the renderings or drawings that were presented by OPN? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the final renderings and floor plans for the Library City Hall project.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. And then we will need to move to the memo.
Yeah, and just to specify, because I have it somewhat mislabeled, I think I'm calling it overall estimated project cost. It really should have said project targets from OPN. So they did not do a revised project cost, just to make that clear to everyone.
So that needs to be changed to targets in
Yes.
a motion.
And that's what,
Cost-saving
and that's what their
targets.
memo
Cost-saving
says. It's target, cost-saving targets.
Yeah, I guess that's what I got it here. What would be soft costs? as an example?
Architectural engineering fees.
Okay. Just so I'm clear.
Yep.
So I'll need a motion to approve a
Receive a memo.
receiving of a memo for the cost savings options or targets with possible cost reductions and revised overall estimated project cost from OPM.
So moved?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then we will need a motion to approve setting of the overall project budget at $6.8 million.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then did you need to go over the letter, or?
I think
We're
it
pretty
speaks
clear
for
on that?
itself.
Okay, that the referendum. And then I need a motion to receive the letter from William Noth of Ehlers and Cooney PC Attorneys at Law regarding the use of the local option sales tax on the Library City Hall project.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Fleshner?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then, when, for the purchase of those two lots, refresh my memory, that would occur at the time that we accept the gift?
So at the time so the agreement, the way it's written today is regarding, there's 2 lots where the motor bank and parking sits. The agreement written says we need to make a decision on if we're going to purchase those by the time before we close on the actual gifted portion of the property.
Okay.
And then the purchase price would be, appraisal would be done, and that would be the purchase price, but not to exceed $200,000.
Then, Randy,
For both?
We need to purchase both lots.
100,000 each, you mean? That would
Yes,
be that.
yeah.
Okay.
Can I interject something?
oh, step forward, Pat, and come up, please. I'm sorry.
We can't have an official appraisal done until we're closer to the time, legally, according to the IRS rules and so forth. But we did have an appraisal, I'm going to call it a guesstimate, done, which would be done over approximately 2 years in advance, which, you really can't count on. That appraisal came in at $75,000 a lot. So when we were talking, we says, maybe up to 100. Assuming it doesn't go up, it would be 75, whatever the appraisal comes in. And I would anticipate it being closer to 75 than 100, realistically. But I didn't want to be saying 75, then have an appraisal come in at 85, and then sort of renege, so to speak.
Well, and I think I think you and Randy, I think you had said that we had some appraisals of some lots, and it was right around 100,000 for some of those, so I think I kind of assumed that that's where we would be at.
Well, the appraisal,
So- Yes.
our appraisal actually came in at 75.
And
we're going to give it to you at whatever the appraisal is.
So we had some working figures, I remember that about a year ago when we started going through this whole process. Thanks, Pat. So, all right. Well, I need a motion to approve the property gift agreement between Commercial Savings Bank and the City of Carroll for property located at 627 North Adams Street, Carroll, Iowa, with the city given the option to purchase the 2 lots west not to exceed $200,000.
I think you need to have in there August 1st of 2018 also.
It could be later, it could be earlier. So the way
You
the.
got it here August 1st.
That's the closing date for.
Yeah, the way the purchase agreement though works, or the property gift agreement works, is if they would be delayed moving to their building, that could also get pushed back. So it would be the later of August 1st or 30 days after they move to the new facility.
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. Finally, we will need a motion to approve the resolution calling for a special city election with regards to the library expansion and city hall project.
Do we need to specify the date, August 1st?
It's in the resolution.
It's in there. Yep.
I'll move to approve the resolution as presented.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Cots?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Downtown Streetscape Phase 8 project. And Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, excuse me. The plan specifications form a contract and estimated cost for the Downtown Streetscape Phase 8 project have been filed. The plans illustrate the construction of streetscape and related work on West Street between US 30 and 7th, 5th Street between the alley west of Carroll Street and Carroll Street, Main Street from 4th to 5th, the northeast access road from 10th to 15th, and the 4th Street parking lot from Court Street to Clark Street. Specifications are the SUDAS specifications with special provisions and supplemental specifications. Form of contract is the same form we've used on the other streetscape projects. And the estimated construction cost is $1,316,807.84. That brings the total estimated project cost to just over $1.4 million. And the schedule includes bid receipt on June 6th, and then award at your next meeting on June 12th, and construction completion by the end of this construction season, November 15th. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend conducting the public hearing and approval of the resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Downtown Streetscape Phase 8 project.
So you need a public hearing for this too, don't you? So it is 6 PM, and I'll open a public hearing with regards to the downtown streetscape Phase 8 project. When were we gonna get started with this then, Randy?
Well, following the award of the contract, that's June 12th is the
Okay.
estimate, then it would be contractor schedule from that point on, with completion during this construction season.
Okay. We have to close off Highway 30 at all much, or divert any traffic around that?
No,
No.
probably not. There'll be some
Shouldn't affect any traffic there.
traffic control and just advising, but there is no construction on Highway 30.
Are there any questions from the public with regards to the downtown streetscape Phase 8 project? If not, are there any questions from the council? If not, it is 6:01, and I'll close the public hearing. I think this project just goes right along with the rest of the streetscape that we've been doing already.
Yep, it does.
I'll need a motion to approve the resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the downtown streetscape Phase 8 project.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the final plat of Danzer subdivision. And Mike?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the final plat submitted by Marty, Lisa, and Nathan Danzer for a 39.86 acre tract of land at the corner of County N33 and Olympic Avenue and 215th. Involves a 6-lot subdivision with 1 outlot. It's a rural residential subdivision. This final plat conforms with the preliminary plat that was previously approved by the City Council on April 24th. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved this at their meeting on May 10th, and staff is recommending approval to City Council tonight. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for Mike? It was all pretty self-explanatory. Just six family lots, 5 acres each, so. Okay. We won't have to do anything with West Central Iowa, do we? Do we have to approve that?
At some point,
At some
we
point in
will,
time,
yeah.
that'll come up, okay. If there are any more questions for Mike, then I will need a motion to approve the Danzer subdivision final plat as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Our next item is the final plat of Northridge 4th subdivision, Phase 3. And Mike?
This is a plat by Roman Steffes and Sons Construction for application approval of final plat to be named Northridge 4th subdivision, Phase 3. The plat is a 20.14 acre development just south of Northridge 4th subdivision, Phase 2, and west of Griffith Road. This phase of development includes 43 residential lots and 1 private open space lot, Outlot A. The single-family homes and duplexes are permitted by city zoning in this zoning class. The private open space lot will be jointly owned by all the owners that are contiguous, and that'll be owned within a homeowners association. The final plat before you tonight conforms with the preliminary plat approved by council on April 24th and includes the addition of the recreational trail on the east side of the plat along Griffith Road, which was a condition of approval of the final plat. Before you was also included in your packet was a draft development agreement. We are recommending approval. I believe at this point the developers also agreed to that subdivision agreement, excuse me. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval at their May 10th meeting to the City Council, and staff is recommending approval as presented tonight along with the subdivision agreement. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on this evening.
Just family and duplexes are what are going to be in this area.
Correct.
There were no apartments type thing, no multi-dwelling, okay.
And I would suspect they'll all be single-family, but you could have duplexes here.
Duplexes, okay. Any questions for Mike?
I'm anxious to see it built, the concept.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting
Pretty
with
neat.
that central park
Central
area,
park.
right, yeah. See how that turns out. If there are no more questions, I'll need an approval of the resolution of the Northridge 4th Subdivision Phase 3 Final Plat as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Cox?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next resolution is the Allen Mid-America Subdivision Preliminary and Final Plats, and Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Allen Properties and Mid-American Energy Company have submitted this request for a subdivision. It's a 8.1 acre tract of land located east of Grant Street between 3rd and 1st Streets. The purpose of the plat is to enable a land swap between Mid-American Energy and Allen Properties. Included in your packet was a diagram that showed the details of the land swap. Essentially, Allen Properties will be picking up the red rectangle from Mid-American Energy. That'll allow them to make some improvements to the Allen distributing truck loading area, and then Mid-American Energy will be picking up what is the blue hashed area in that diagram from Allen Properties. There are also, as a side note, there's a number of items that the city code requires to be shown on a preliminary plat, and that staff is recommending the council waive since this site is essentially developed out, and that includes showing the existing buildings on the preliminary plat, showing existing public and private utility systems, and showing existing and proposed contours and grading. And the reason we're recommending approval of that is essentially there is no additional development will be occurring, so it just seems not logical to require that. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this at their May 10th meeting and recommended both the preliminary and final plats to City Council, and staff is doing the same with the recommended waivers by the City Council. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council has.
The street right-of-way stays, correct? Is that the right-of-way on the north side there?
Yeah,
Third
so,
Street?
yeah, so 3rd Street's already platted just north of Mid-American Energy. Allen Properties is, there's 2 outlots. There's an outlot A that really is a future 3rd Street. Now, they're going to retain ownership until such time that that develops to south. And then outlot B is kind of the developable lot. So we're anticipating what a future right-of-way dedication would be, but they'll maintain that ownership until a future date.
Okay. So we don't have to do anything with the street part yet?
No.
Okay. And this concept came about to alleviate some of the congestion with trucks, is that?
I believe that's
understand?
their ultimate intent.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the Allen Mid-American Subdivision preliminary and final plats as presented, and specifically waive showing the following items on the preliminary plat: the existing buildings, the existing public and private utility systems, and the existing elevation contours, proposed grading plan.
Could we, Mr. Mayor, could we actually have 2 separate motions, one for the preliminary and one for the final?
Oh, sure, yep. We will need a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
So
of the-
moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for the preliminary plat. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And I'll need a motion for the final plats.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Fleischner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
The final resolution is covering the street lighting changes, Timber Creek East Subdivision Plat 5, and Randy.
You have before you tonight a proposed resolution to add 5 streetlights in the Timber Creek East subdivision, Plat 5. These lights were identified in the preliminary plat and plans for the subdivision, so they follow that, those formerly or previously approved drawings. The impact on the budget will be at about $122.65 a month for the 5 lights. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend passage of the resolution adding the lights.
Mid-America installs those, correct?
Yes, they do.
They do those, okay.
And they own those.
Oh, they will own them.
Yes, these are lease prices, or lease costs.
So we just pay the electric bill.
We pay, actually, you're paying for the amortization of the cost of the light and the pole and the labor and the electric bill, and $24.53 a month per each.
Any other questions for Randy? I think this thing kind of explained itself. If not, I'll need a motion for passage of the resolution regarding the covering of the streetlight changes for Timber Creek East Subdivision Plat 5.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Cox?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Thank you. Now for some explosive fireworks. Our first report this evening is the fireworks legislation that was passed. And Mike, please.
I told someone today we were going to have fireworks, and literally fireworks, so let's talk about it. On May 9th, as you know, the governor signed into law Senate File 489 that permits the sale and use of consumer fireworks in Iowa. Previously, only novelty fireworks like sparklers and little ground worms and whatnot were permitted in Iowa. The legislation specifically allows now a first-class and second-class consumer fireworks that were previously illegal in Iowa. In general terms, first-class fireworks are fireworks that are aerial in nature and explosive, like firecrackers. And second-class consumer fireworks are generally ground-based type fireworks. They're like waterfall, sparkler-type devices. There was a handout included in the packet that showed the 2 classes of consumer fireworks in detail, but I won't go over that anymore. 2 general items for the council to keep in consideration. First, under the bill, the sale of fireworks is allowed. Fireworks is allowed in permanent structures between June 1st and July 8th, and December 10th and January 3rd of each year. And additionally, fireworks are permitted in temporary structures between June 13th and July 8th each year. Related to time and date restrictions, the bill sets out that general dates and hours are from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. from June 1st through July 8th and December 10th through January 3rd. There's some special caveats around 4th of July. They'd be allowed between 9 and 11 on July 4th and the preceding Saturday and Sunday. And then during the New Year's holidays, they'd be allowed between 9 a.m. and 12:30 on New Year's Eve, and 9 a.m. to 11 on the Saturday and Sunday preceding and following New Year's Eve. It's also worth noting that only fireworks are authorized only to be shot off on your property or property of someone who says they give you permission to shoot it off. I did include a copy of the current city ordinance, but it does today prohibit the use and sale of fireworks in Carroll. Without a change, those prohibitions will remain in place in the city of Carroll. While the city can clearly regulate the hours of operation, it is questionable if we can regulate the sale of fireworks. Certainly, the city has the ability through zoning to place restrictions on where and how they can be sold, and if they need to be in a permanent building or temporary building, but then needs to be regulated through zoning, but you can't just outright prohibit a use. You have to regulate it through zoning, but you still have to allow it at some level. So tonight, we really asked the council to discuss the issue and provide some direction to staff on how to proceed on this. I think obviously the 2 items are the use of fireworks, and some items to consider is, does the city allow the first-class fireworks, second-class fireworks, and then is there additional dates and time restrictions on the use of fireworks that you want to consider? And then related to the sale of fireworks, we obviously need to remove the prohibition, but then does the city want to consider regulations on where they're sold, Do you want to ban temporary structures? Do you want to restrict certain districts that they can be sold in? Do you want to ban residential sales? Because I know at least one person that wants to sell them out of the garage already. So, and I would say my phone has literally rang off the hook, including getting a call at about 4:15 even today before I came up here. People have a very much of an interest both ways. And I'm sure the fire chief and police chief will both like to interject a little bit of thoughts into this discussion. So with that, we just ask the council review this and give us some directions on how you'd like to proceed with this issue at this time. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has about fireworks.
I have one question just to start things rolling. Who collects the fee from the fire marshals, and what is that fee? It's not stated in here.
It's the state.
Okay.
And there's different fees based on the type of structure, how much you're selling in your structure, so it varies. It's a few $100s based on the
So the
price.
city has nothing to do with collecting those fees or handling them in any way?
So they have to
They would have to present a permit, though. that they-
Yeah. Now, one of the things we've heard through the fire marshal's office is, I'm not sure they can issue all the permits that people may want statewide, because there's only 2 people that issue permits.
They won't have time.
They're not going to have time, so that's going to be an issue. It's a licensing issue, but that's not our
Not our
issue.
concern.
So someone that wants to sell them, they apply to the state,
They have to be licensed through the state.
license through the state. to sell.
Obviously, and the calls I'm getting are from the fireworks vendors, because it's not uncommon
Yeah.
for local jurisdictions to have requirements like we do, like peddler's license. So if you come up and just set up a tent, you're still going to need a peddler's license, depending on if you live in town or not. So you may need some local zoning permits, and those are the calls we're getting,
Okay.
is what's your local zoning requirement? In a lot of cases, I've been saying, stay tuned, call me tomorrow. So I'll be spending my morning, I'm sure, on the phone with fireworks.
Before we get too far, I'd like to hear from the chief, police, and fire department, what their thoughts are.
Well, I guess I can start. I think at the state level, the Iowa Firemen's Association was opposed to legalizing any type of fireworks other than the caps, snakes, and sparklers. That was unsuccessful. And I would just add my own personal thoughts here that, you know, if you have first-class fireworks, that certainly is going to increase the risk of a personal injury, accident, or possibly a fire. I can't say how much that would increase. The second-class fireworks are probably a little more safe in that they don't project off of your property, so to speak, and you don't have the noise of the fireworks exploding and that type of thing. I would say a way that risk could be reduced is to definitely shorten the time that they would possibly be allowed, maybe 3 days before and 3 after the 4th, and that's with either class. I would suggest that to reduce some of that risk, I guess. But, you know, how much risk there's going to be, I don't know. This is a first-time thing for the state of Iowa, first-time thing for me. You know, I don't know how much risk would be taken. There are some people that would handle the responsibility well, but there are others that may not handle that so well, and there would be a risk of, you know, fire depending on where they're shooting them and that type of thing. But I think the second class, you add some risk, and allowing first class, you probably assume a little more risk of injury, that type of thing. So that would be my offering is, if we go with the first class and include everything, that I would think that time frame should certainly be shortened up, you know, because we start June 1 and end July 8 seems like an awful long time to allow anything like that in my opinion.
So are you saying to go ahead and use them in town?
Well, with some apprehension.
Yes,
I would
okay.
certainly be more in favor of the second class than
The
allowing
first.
the first class.
So we would
To
be
reduce
allowed,
risk.
we would be allowed to regulate either, correct?
You can
Yes.
certainly set up, I mean, right now, they're prohibited both classes.
Both classes, correct.
So it would take an ordinance amendment by the council to allow one or either or both classes. But yes, you could restrict and say you can have second class but not first class, or you could allow all.
As far as I'm concerned, what goes up must come down. rockets come down, they're not gonna come down on your own property. Not very often. So that's a concern of mine. And I looked through this, maybe I missed something. Are there age restrictions on who can purchase these? I must have missed it when I looked through. 18? Okay, thank you.
Cheaper, yeah.
I kind of agree with Greg on some of the restrictions on shooting these, and with that, I think you got to take either one of two options, mostly because of enforcement. They're going to be all in, matching the state code, or completely denying it. I don't think there's any middle ground in between it by setting dates. As the enforcement part, there's too much confusion. That'll be what's the city ordinance here compared to Glidden to the state. So I think if there's any apprehension at all, you just completely ban them in the city. Mainly because the enforcement is going to be tough. If we say we have 6 days here, but people who are coming to visit or anything else are going to be not knowing the codes. Citizens will also say they're unaware of the codes and will have issues. So either way, we're going to get calls. We get calls starting about the middle of June now anyway on fireworks. So we'll probably see an increase though with them being more readily available in town. So that's the way I see it. I see either we just follow the state code or we completely ban them in town.
What's your current process now? If you get called, what do you do?
We talk to the homeowners. I can't recall a time that we've ever issued a citation for it. We'll be able to stop that way. We have siege fireworks in the past also.
Greg, has there ever been a fire-related issue from fireworks that you can?
We've had one that I know of in my 30-plus years. It's on the fire department. That was caused by a sparkler, which was legal at the time. Some kids dropped one in a wood frame porch on a house, and that worked. But other than that, no.
Chief Schreck, your volunteer department, are your volunteers, what are their take on this?
I sent out an email to the officers of the department, and most had mixed feelings, I guess. A couple supported the second class, and maybe not the first class, but there was no total opposition to them, So, kind of mixed feeling. No one said outright that they would not want them to be permitted in any form, so.
And I think everybody likes to watch them. I think people like to use them. But again, my concern is the congestion that we have in town. And it's the neighborhood that you have to worry about it. It's like Jerry, you said, it goes up, must come down. I don't want to start my neighbor's house on fire, but I still like to see fireworks,
And that's more of the risk you would run by allowing the first class, because those are aerial projectiles and they're subject to drift, and where they come down, you don't know.
Plus the debris that's coming off of here,
Yeah.
paper, all your neighbors.
The paper trail,
And one other comment I had from one of the officers was that, and I think that was a good idea too, is to eliminate them completely if anything is passed during the New Year's holiday, is to eliminate that.
Why is that?
Just noise that time of year, I guess, and, hard to say. It's generally dry, drier conditions, lawns are brown if there's no snow, that kind of thing. And then that, another thing we discussed too was having the authority or right, if anything is passed, to ban their use in dry conditions, those type of things too.
That I would go along with it,
Yeah.
if there was some feeling to do that. But, if we had like a water ordinance like what we got going on now, they would be banned altogether too.
Who typically issues the fire ban when we're in dry spells?
I believe the majority of the fire chiefs in the county can do it, or the county board of supervisors. And I'm not sure if a city council could probably do that for, city. Of course, in the city limits, we can't burn anyway, but there are special provisions for campfires and recreational fires, that type of thing. The council could take action on what is permitted.
Like our water ban, isn't that something you set up, Randy? Like the usage, when our wells go low.
Council approves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as this is a first year thing, that's really something, and all of a sudden it's here. I mean, there was discussion about it, but now it's here. And, I guess if we enter into this, if whatever council decides doesn't work, or you're not happy with, it could be ended next year.
I think this thing will be tweaked for more than just 1 or 2 years.
I didn't think it was going to pass just because of all the years that we weren't allowed. I know there's always been that interest, but a sudden, boom, there it is.
I think they want the sales tax off.
Very, probably right.
Do you have any concerns, Dave, from a legal standpoint? I see you're kind of looking at the law.
Well, this is a,
It looks like you've
well,
got a
this
few
is,
highlights.
this is an open book
Okay.
for legal
By
interpretation. I mean, it's I think I should describe it as a mess,
Okay.
more so than anything else.
You're talking about the past law, the law that has
Yes.
been passed is
Yes.
the mess. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there that I would feel uncomfortable trying to answer right now.
Did anything stand out as a concern directly to the city that we represent? Or just the law in general?
No, just the law in general.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we still have the ability to control the use. The sales is something that's going to be forced upon us. But we still have flexibility with the use of the fireworks.
Insurance-wise, will housing insurance rates, is that something that could increase also? You know, if all of a sudden you've got that extra, where we didn't have that risk before, is that a significant amount that shows up in the actuarial tables, that all of a sudden your insurance rates go up in the community?
That makes sense to me.
I mean,
Good question.
you know, all of a sudden,
You're saying are dependent on what we allow?
yeah.
Yeah, I see where you're saying.
You know, right now they're banned, so there's
Yeah.
really no reason for an insurance company to say, you know,
Good question.
now all of a sudden, if they're legalized and you can use them, and they can determine that your firework burned down your neighbor's house.
Good question.
A few people have reached out to me of basically said, don't change a thing, leave it the way it is, which I was kind of surprised to hear, but the common sense part of me says, we can't restrict the sales. If we allow the sales, structure that the way we want it, and I would recommend keeping the status quo for at least a year and see how this law,
How it
unfolds.
affects
and
and what it
yeah.
unfolds.
And if it's a huge issue, we can make changes. If it's not, we don't have to worry about it.
I thought, I read some articles on the internet about what other cities are doing, and some are doing a moratorium, and some are going, 100% behind this, but the people who have talked to me, I thought they'd be concerned about safety. It's the nuisance, like the debris. You can't control a lot of these. Someone was concerned about his pet, and the noise and so on, and it just seems to me it opens up a lot of a Pandora's box of issues that we could avoid and let the police and other people focus on other more important issues. And someone did raise the insurance, asked me, is anybody going to check with
Housing insurance.
housing
Yeah.
insurance to see how that.
How
yeah,
that changes in
yeah.
rates.
But
I would suspect if there's
people
ever a claim,
aren't.
they'll definitely
They'd
let that
have to
hard
go, yeah.
When's the last day that we can legally set this?
Well, at some point, you would need to, well, back up for a second. Without a special meeting, obviously, this is going to go into effect on June 1st. So some of this is just going to start happening. The use of the fireworks, if what I'm hearing is keep status quo, council doesn't need to do anything because we already have a prohibition. We eventually may want to tweak it because I think the current state law and what we have, we could clarify it better.
We would have to address though the sales portion. of
On the
it.
sales
Yes.
portion, the state law is likely just going to override us. Now the question becomes, does the council want to start considering other avenues on zoning restrictions on how it gets sold? You have to allow it to get sold. But there are other unsavory uses that we have in our zoning code. We restrict where it happens, because we still have to allow it, but we put in restrictions on where it can happen. When it comes to the permanent structure, that's going to already happen, because we're not, unless barring you have a special meeting and we can get the zoning commission to take an action and bring it back, I don't think we can do that by June 1st. So that's going to kick in. Now, the temporary structure, if you guys say, no, we don't want the temporary structures, And I think that's where I'm getting the most calls from. Certainly, there's at least one permanent structure that I know they want to do it in there in the commercial business. But the majority of the calls are, we want to come into your community and set up a tent and be here for 30 days. That we can do an ordinance. That provision in state law doesn't allow sales until June 13th. We have a meeting on June 10th or June 12th, so there's some timing ability. We wouldn't be able to get it published per se, but
It
we'd
wouldn't be
have.
fair to the vendor to have to sit and wait till then either.
But certainly, if you gave notice tonight and say, we're going to head down that direction, we can let vendors know that's where the council's headed.
Then they can make up
Or
their
we
own
can have a
mind.
special meeting.
Or you could do special meetings.
Well, I'm not too interested in having them sold out of someone's garage in a residential area for starters. So I couldn't support that.
I think we have ordinances that would prohibit that particular
Okay.
one.
There probably is with the amount of gunpowder that's in those and how much they have in there.
I would assume there is.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head what that is.
But-
What the fire
Yeah.
marshal would allow.
Well, do we need to specify that in some sort of a,
We need a home occupation permit. So, they'd have to go through a process before they could start doing that.
okay.
And I think we would be able to stop them that way. Dave, do you see any issues?
Yeah, I'm really not concerned with the residential setup of fireworks.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, there would have to be a home occupation permit requested. Board of Adjustment would then need to approve that. There'd be a hearing and
So we don't
Yeah,
have
Board
to
of
pass
Adjustment.
anything. To restrict that, we don't have to pass anything at this time.
well, we're just talking about residential properties at this
Yeah,
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
Okay.
far as residential properties,
Mhm.
I would agree with you.
We don't
Yeah,
have to.
I think
Okay.
we can keep tents and garage sales in residential areas under wraps.
What if somebody has a home business already in a residential area? Would they be able to do that underneath their, so
No,
we wouldn't have a problem
no.
there?
There's a specific purpose that's granted by the Board of Adjustment, whether it be for babysitting or whatever other home occupation it might be. So they couldn't kind of dovetail fireworks onto that.
And as I say, I hate to dump all that on the Board of Adjustment. I think it's our responsibility as a council to help along with that, have some restriction there too.
Nobody's got an FFL out of their homes, do they?
I thought there was one over by
I don't have any paper for current ones that are residents.
thought there was one over by the post office.
I'd be a little bit concerned about
They
that.
expire though, and I haven't seen.
Oh, you haven't seen any, okay. I thought there was one over there when I looked the last time, but it's been a couple of years since I've looked.
Am I the only one who doesn't know what that means?
Federal firearms license.
Thank
So
you.
you sell guns.
Sell firearms and whatnot,
Sell,
but I would
yeah.
assume this would kind of fall underneath that umbrella. It's gunpowder, it's fireworks, firearms,
Thank you.
so.
Dangerous explosive items. And I don't have a trouble with, I guess, selling them in the business district, that area, hard top building. But the tents, the fly-by-night things, I guess I have trouble with.
That's my leaning to commercial hard stand building
Mhm.
on this street, on this corner.
You have a specific address in mind, Mike?
We can do what West Des Moines did. They're passing an ordinance saying, here's an area that we're going to allow the sales. They need to be in a permanent building, but by the way, there's no permanent buildings there today.
If we're not gonna allow them, and have a weight issue on that and see what happens in a year. Geez, I'm 51 years I've waited, what's another year to wait? I
Carolyn,
don't
you
have a
did
problem.
some research.
Oh, I just was looking up other cities, and they're all over the map,
Okay.
so I think it's what works for
Des Moines
Carroll.
was gonna start theirs tonight, they were discussing
Yeah.
theirs tonight. I know in some communities, like I was looking in the state of Nevada, you can buy them in communities, but you can't use them there, you gotta go somewhere else to use them in the state of Nevada. So it's,
You can make some sales tax dollars on it.
right. But they don't, you can use it, but we don't want it, being used.
We'll sell it to you, but don't use it here.
Right.
There are lots of places they can use them.
There's
Where
some,
to?
is it Colorado or California, you have to be a resident to purchase? can't not be a resident and purchase the stuff. So, the thing of it is it's creeping in. South Dakota has it, Nebraska has it. People are already going across. Missouri has it. It's already there.
Missouri for a long time.
So I guess so Mike has some clarity, maybe a moratorium for 1 year on the use?
Well, I got another question. This is just city limits, right? Now, is it currently out of the city limits? Can they fire them? Like a farmer? Can they do whatever they want? County? Can they do whatever, they shoot whatever they want?
I can't answer that. I don't know what the county's going to do.
Right, you know?
Starting June 1st, they will be able to.
As I say, it's open across the whole state. It's residential areas that I think.
Or city limits is what
City
we're
limits,
at.
yeah.
I was just curious what it is countywide.
They didn't make any motions today.
No, that was not on.
They didn't discuss it today.
No, they didn't discuss it today. It wasn't on their agenda.
And I suppose each township and small town will probably have their own rulings, and out in the country, it's kind of hard to manage, and it's probably the safest place to do them.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is somebody could go right out of our city limits and set up a tent.
Right out on the, yeah.
And set up a tent and start selling.
Right. This won't be done in town.
Yes, I get it.
That's what we're going to regulate. Usage-wise, could you just go out on a gravel road and do them on a gravel road?
You have to be on private property.
If you're on private property, okay. So they won't be out at Swan Lake doing it, obviously?
No.
Not legal.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Robbing bank. So you can see a lot of fireworks if you're close to the edge of the city limits and it's legal.
You see a lot now already.
But before it wasn't legal, but now it will be legal for anybody out of the city limits.
Yes.
Do you live out on a farm?
No, but.
Yeah. No, if you do.
If you're living close to the city limits and right across the road's county, they can set up a tent, sell them, and shoot them off.
Hopefully they're not shooting them off in the tent.
Well, that's.
I don't know if the state would regulate the sale of them to prohibit anybody from going helter-skelter, I guess, and setting up on a gravel road somewhere. I would think, and I don't know that for sure, but I would think they'd have to have an application with a permanent address. But again, that's just kind of my thought. I don't know whether there's anything to back that up or not. But
Well, that one company, was it Iowa Fireworks? They were going to start popping tents up right away as soon as they could. They had like 10 or 13 communities, I think, outlined already.
yeah.
And if you signed up for their website, you got $10 off. Already looked that up.
It's gotta be private, they gotta have a property address to it.
For the sales.
On a gravel road.
Yeah, they can't do it in the right of way, and then the next thing you know, you're up in somebody's farmyard, and you disturb somebody's corn or beans, they're not gonna be very happy.
There's a process that they send in, and then they have to have the application approved, so they just can't set up where they want to get their license.
So I guess I'll go back again. Do we understand what we want for use? Do we want to wait 1 year? Moratorium for 1 year, is that kind of what I was hearing?
Yeah.
Just
Status quo for a year.
And I wouldn't call it a moratorium. I think Dave wouldn't like that,
Oh.
but we have a current.
Prohibition.
Just prohibit the use.
Yeah, I mean, our ordinance today prohibits it, so we wouldn't change the ordinance in that
Just
regard.
status
Does that
quo.
sound fair, Dave?
Just keep it status
Status
quo.
quo.
Yeah.
I just want to check a little bit on the definition of fireworks
Okay.
with the new statute compared to what we have it defined as. I don't know if that will need to be tweaked or not a little bit.
So restricted to sparklers and novelties, like currently like what we have?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how our
Gotcha,
definition
okay.
reads right now. I think it's pretty general.
It names, it lists, yeah.
It's pretty specific. We'll
Yeah.
probably make some adjustments though, because it does talk about the sales in there, we're gonna have to separate things out.
Right.
We'll clean it up though. and
But
bring it back.
it doesn't break anything down between first class, second class, display,
I
fireworks.
think by definition, the ones that are listed all fall into that second class, that lower level, sparklers and caps.
And that's, yeah, and we'll double check on that. That's the only thing I'm saying.
So we could currently do the second class that would be on that list? No, nothing on there.
No.
So we're pretty much regulated to the sparklers novelties thing, is where we're at now.
That's what it looks like.
Boy, if we're confused by this, just imagine the general public.
Yeah.
And the reason to keep it the same for a year and sort it out.
They concur. Get a better understanding.
So can we get you to write something or come close?
Well, at this point, you have prohibited fireworks from being used in the city. The only question that I have at this point is, I want to compare the definition of fireworks in our code compared to fireworks in the
new code.
state code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that say if we do status quo, the novelties and sparkler thing, we could leave it as is. Because that's what's currently being sold like at Walmart or Kmart or Hy-Vee or wherever. Those are already being done.
Well, we're not
Those
to
would be the
sale
only
yet,
things
though,
allowed.
right?
No, we're not even at, we're just at the usage.
We're talking-
Right, no.
Talking usage.
I'm just saying, those are the things that you can currently purchase and use legally in the state now, prior to this new law that the state legislature passed.
Okay.
So our current code would allow us to use the sparklers and novelties.
Okay, so we're just gonna do nothing for potentially up to a year, and Mr. Bruner's gonna research definitions of fireworks for us.
And we may have to tweak our ordinance.
Adjust our ordinance,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The only change that do nothing is, like I said, we still may need to define where we want to do sales, and it sounds,
Right.
I don't think we're talking the commercial hard stand building.
That's where I wouldn't mind seeing it for now.
Yeah.
Is that in agreement with everybody? Just kind of leave.
I just kind of wonder
the
why.
Sales.
I guess I must be wrong here, but it seems to me it'd be safer to sell them out of a tent than in a building. When something goes off, you want to have it outside, isn't that the whole reason they do that?
Well, the other thing I'm a little concerned about is, and this is a double-edged sword, but if we have these tents set up in town, we have the potential for commerce to come to town as people come to buy their fireworks. Maybe they buy some medication from you, Jerry, or stop and buy them over from me, or whatever else it might be. Burn cranberry, big business for Jerry. It's like this already.
You got fireworks tent?
There you go. The other edge of that sword, of course, being that someone who's a taxpayer and has a building in town and wants to do it.
But they still can.
Yeah, they still
I guess
can.
I'm not as concerned about having tents as it appears other people are.
I came up with that same thought, Clay, and then my other, if someone has some rental property that's sitting vacant, a bare lot, someone could contact that individual and end up paying them a set fee for their
That's a valid point, too.
land spread and pay them and,
Someone's
so
gonna
you'd
get
still-
some money, aren't they?
Right. Still gotta grease the wheel, I guess.
I guess I'm not concerned about the tents.
I'm not either.
I don't want to shoot.
Where do you want them? That's the thing.
Well, in the business district, it'd have to be non-residential.
Non-residential.
Can we limit the number, or can everybody who just shows up at the tent just
That's a
start
good
selling?
question. It'd be nice to limit it if you could.
I can tell one business yes, one.
And plus,
Yeah, how
that's
can
say,
you
well,
do
that's still my
that?
business.
That was the other thing, is that you could end up with one tent, you could end up with 100 tents.
Yeah.
And everybody's fighting.
City.
Yeah. And then it's here for 30 days and.
They'll eliminate their sales by lack of sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, the competition will take care of that, I think.
Right.
But it'll be a mess initially.
Probably.
No,
Oh, my God.
I don't,
I think you
well,
just
I
gotta try it
don't
and
think
find
they
out.
will have time to, this year, I don't see that it's going to be as big of an issue as you think, because they're just, the sales people are just as caught off guard as
As everybody
we
else.
are. I mean, they're not ready. I doubt that there's that many that even have enough inventory to sell here.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
What about the licensing? Didn't we talk some about that there may not be able to issue them speedy enough, or? Did I
That's a
misunderstand that?
speculation we kind of.
Yeah, that's what I had heard, that, this has come on so quickly. I mean, it's been discussed for a couple of years, but now it's here. And I think they, in my own opinion, they may be overwhelmed, and I believe there's only 2 persons that are gonna be issuing permits for the entire state, so.
That's kind of the way,
So-
that's kind of the way I assume it's gonna happen is there's two people in our office in Des Moines that's gonna be able to do the permits unless they're gonna have other people help. They're gonna be overwhelmed, I believe.
We could probably cut down a lot of that if we just restrict it to commercial and get rid of the residential. Otherwise, you open it to residential, you're gonna have.
Carolyn's got a big lawn, she'd probably have a tent out.
I'm ready. Don't some people
Buy 'em
sell
all.
out of semis and trucks and things? I mean, I remember driving places to buy things.
I know going through Nebraska, I've seen tents, but then South Dakota and Missouri, I always see them in
Big
buildings. They're huge
trucks and
buildings. They're
stuff.
not, and I
I
know
don't know.
some of the truck stops out in Colorado have them in tents. They're sitting right outside the tents. I've been through Tennessee and Kentucky, Tennessee. I think they were outside of a tent in, right next to a truck stop. I mean, that, I've seen it in all
It's a whole
structures.
gamut out there.
Right.
I drive all over the nation. And
Yeah, you probably see it too.
It's, you see everything.
Mhm.
And Mike, did I?
That's just selling them though.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I think a little bit of it, I kind of agree a little bit with Jerry on the sales, getting some potential people in here, because now, before, you couldn't shoot them anywhere, basically, in the state of Iowa. Now you can, so they're going to. If we don't have them in the city limits, they'll go outside the city limits somewhere. So they're gonna fire them. Instead of going to Missouri to buy these things, you know, might as well make some revenue. Because they're gonna buy them, because they can shoot them all now out in the rural area.
I agree. We'll sell them to you, but you can't use them here yet.
In the city limits.
Yeah.
But you can elsewhere, which, that opens all that up. I'm not sure if the fire department's gonna be happy with that, but.
Oh, if they're not in town.
Well, they're gonna buy, if they're not gonna buy them here, they're gonna go to
buy 'em
Missouri and buy them because they can
Yeah.
shoot them now.
I don't know what it'll do for you.
Who makes sure that these tents, let's say they do come, who makes sure that the permits are appropriate? Fire marshal, police?
Oh,
Mike,
boy,
you wanna
what a
do
mess,
it?
isn't this?
Yeah, that's.
No, really, who would be in charge of checking a permit?
Greg, with business and commercial zoning, doesn't it refer to as a structure? I'm not so sure if tents would even qualify to be placed in a business or commercial district. And again, I don't know the answer to that, my own question, but I don't think a tent could be considered a structure, could it? I don't know the answer.
By definition, it talks about a roof supported by
Right,
walls or
right.
supporting members. So I don't know, it's one of those tough ones to tell, I'd have to look.
So we probably need some clarification on structure.
No,
I think he needs to
Yeah.
figure
Can we
that out.
take
We
a
might have to have a
look at our
special meeting after he
zoning?
gets it figured out.
But if we limit it to building, we would be all right, right?
Right.
Building.
Yeah, my only question is the tent option.
Is that considered a building?
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I believe we have
Yep.
a member of the public with that.
Oh, just waiting. Yes, Jeff?
I have people that still approach me, believe it or not, and ask questions about law enforcement, safety issues, things like that. When the fireworks bill passed, I've had people talk to me, and I ended up talking to my wife, who's in the mental health field. One of the concerns, and I think Carolyn mentioned earlier, pet owners. I'm a pet owner, and I've had pets in the past who, it didn't just scar them when it happened. The rest of their lives it thundered, they were under the bed, in the closet, whatever. But maybe a more important issue, I've had people talk to me that have post-traumatic stress disorder. And
Heard
the
that too.
idea of having explosions, you know, whether they be the aerial or whether it's just firecrackers, they're scared to death of the idea that that's going to happen and how that's going to impact them or their family member or whatever. I personally, just because I've got the pets, and I don't like loud noises like that either, but I think your approach is good because I think you're going to learn from the experience of other cities. And I think because it did come upon us so quickly, none of us really know what to expect. I can attest from my years of experience, people do dumb things. And when you start handing out explosives to them, you know, the likelihood of something happening. We're still going to have it happen. We've had fireworks going off in Carroll for years. But I think the PTSD is definitely something that maybe as you're in your travels and talk to your constituents, maybe get a better feel, if you use this year period of time to gather information from other cities, find out what kind of experience they have with their population, with their pet owners, PTSD, neighborhoods, those types of things. The other question, I guess, I don't know if there's an answer to this, is there a restriction on the hours? I know that the dates are restricted.
Yes.
Okay, hours.
There's hour restriction also.
Okay, all right,
And they're kind of different between July 4th and if you do it around New Year's.
okay.
And I didn't realize that, I thought it was just July 4th. I didn't realize New Year's you could do fireworks too.
I believe that's back to what Mr. Bruner alluded to as the mess there in front of him. It's a lot of little pieces
Jeff,
that need
it's
to come together.
9 a.m. to 10 p.m., except on July 4th, it's 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Well, and to speak of the piece of, if we put up loud tents, people will come down to buy them. If we're allowing them to stand buildings, and people rent the building, they're still going to be able to come to town. Those same people will still be coming, still spending the same money here. I'm not a big fan of the tents. I don't care to drive through town and see tents sitting up everywhere.
That I agree with. I think if you do the temporary structures, we can revisit it again too, and just see what the volume is going to be. And I may go somewhere else, but I know that there's someone in town that's ready to sell them out of their commercial building. So,
I think you got to start somewhere.
Mike, did you say we could be more restrictive than the state as far as the window for selling, the June 1st to July 8th, December 10th? Can we be more
I
restrictive?
don't believe you could be more restrictive.
Or we have
in
to
that area.
follow for
I think that would
selling
be one of
those
the provisions
dates?
we would need to follow.
Can we set the hours that they can offer these for sale? Or could they be selling them till midnight? Or, you know what? There's nothing in here about, there's hours of usage, but do we set the hours for sale?
For sales?
Are we allowed to, under this? I can't find anything in here.
Term date restrictions?
I would imagine not.
Well, yeah, I don't
good
recall
question.
if the sale times are actually in the statute. I don't believe so. I think it's just usage.
just use it.
Yeah,
So-
right, and the time when you
So
can.
that would leave the door open for us to regulate times of sales.
I think we should if it's legal.
Can we restrict sales from 8 to 5? That type of thing, is that kind of what you're inferring? 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
Or whatever we decide, but we need to, keep this
It could certainly be
contained.
restricted to the use time.
12:01 to 12:02?
But only on the third Wednesday of the preceding month.
So the limitation basically is just whatever the business owner owns on currently. Is that correct, Dan?
As far as time?
Yes.
That would be my understanding,
Standing.
yeah.
If
That
you get
might be
into,
another-
if you get into something that's open 24/7, now they're having to bar the sales or, restrict their area.
Brad, what's your feelings on that?
Because I really never thought about the times for sales. If we ban them in the city and they're buying them at 2 a.m., they still can't shoot them at 2 a.m., so I don't know if that's as much of a concern. If we do end up allowing them, yes, maybe we need to restrict the sales time.
Well, I know what's going to happen if we do this, or I can envision what may happen, perhaps I should say. I would imagine that the phone calls you're getting for setting up tents, Mike, are going to start coming to me and other business owners outside of the city limits, plocking them up, surrounding it. That's just an assumption that I would make, is that it'll diffuse it outwards. I don't think it'll go away.
No, but I think, we're not going to be able to restrict the sales. That we know for sure. So it's going to happen. There's no reason why we can't restrict it to what current hard buildings already. Like I say, I like that point of it's the snake oil salesman's coming in and going out, and it's just that jumbling of visualization of tent city for a while, I don't think our community, I think we have a lot more respect for our community than that. So I think the tent, the soft type of structure, I would not agree with. I think if we're gonna do it, have a hard, this is a chance to regulate it at that point. If it doesn't work well, we can change it the next year, is I guess what I'm getting at.
Well, it is nice with the hard structures, then we do have some controls over it, right, Chief?
There is, but just what crossed my mind now, is it like a snow cone shop? Can you,
Yeah,
something like that?
what determines a hard structure?
Or a building
building
product,
structure.
8 by 10 or 10 by 12, which you can bring into the city now without a permit.
Fishing shack or
Is that considered a hard building, or do you say permanent structure, I guess? And that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
So that would be another one that could possibly pop up, is the 10 by 12 little shack.
or the semi-trailer,
Yeah,
or the bread truck, UPS truck type thing.
I bet we'll see all of those things.
Schwan man.
Yeah.
So we need a building structure with a permanent address? That type of thing, I mean.
Chief Burke, I wouldn't discharge a firearm when you go to kick him out of town.
And then then the question here is to restrict to certain zoning districts.
That's done, right?
That's, we got that done, okay. So we just want to know temporary structures, or?
I think at this point, we probably have enough direction. We need to go back and review some of the
Review.
code sections.
Okay.
And then we'll fashion something based on this discussion and bring it back, unless there's some other point.
While you're checking on that, can you see what kind of hours these folks usually run?
We can check that.
What about having a permanent structure that's, like all year round permanent structure? Instead of somebody bringing a semi in or something and setting it here.
4-foot foundation.
Yeah, it has, I'm just trying to eliminate the semi and the trucks and all that coming in. Something that has to be here 365 days a year structure.
I think that goes back to, I need to look at the code on
Okay.
what we define
I
as
mean, then it could say a mobile home, or somebody could just park a mobile home and jack it up.
Be here all year round.
It could be once you jack it up and
Yeah.
it's off the wheels, then it's done. That's how mobile homes work too.
What about no temporary structures? This ordinance, that's simple.
Say that again.
No temporary structures.
Well, I need to go back and look at how we define a commercial structure,
Structure, okay.
because that may preclude that.
Okay.
So is all you need tonight, Mike? You just need this guidance that you've heard from our discussion tonight to try to form things forward then, or do you need motions tonight? What are you after?
I don't think we need motions
No.
tonight. We're not acting on anything.
Anything, no.
Do you
Just,
have any
you
other
Need a
questions?
special meeting to act before?
We will be back.
I don't think we need to at this point.
Well, what happens on June 1st when somebody wants to sell?
They can't.
They won't be able to.
Well,
Well, yeah.
there's
because
some
they'll
things
see
that they have to
what
do
they
before they reach that point. Number one would be receive the license or permit. Number two, apply. They wouldn't necessarily have to apply, but they'd have to meet our zoning.
Yeah, it's the tent structures that go into effect on the 13th, so we got a meeting before then.
I think the real key takeaway here is doing our due diligence and making sure we do long-term what's right for the people of Carroll, and I'm glad to hear that around the table.
I'm worried June 12th might be a little late. Because what if the next day they need to know? And what if people are making plans of coming here and doing something, all of a sudden they get here and it's like, no, you can't.
So I'll wait till June 12th?
That's why I'm saying it's too late. It's not
But
fair, it's not really fair to those people that are gonna be trying to set
I think
something
they're gonna
up,
have-
and we don't have nothing set for them except for the day before.
Sure. But I don't know if it's necessarily our responsibility to be responsible to them. I mean, there are gonna be other communities that they're gonna have to attempt to get into and whatnot.
I tend to agree with that. It's going to be, I think there's going to be enough open communities that they're not going to have the resources to source everything anyway, so they'll go path of least resistance.
Right. And where they set up, they set up. They you know, I think the time's gonna come is after July 1, when this is all comes to fruition and it's all done. They're gonna have another whole 365 to start their bartering process with communities again. So, anything else? You got an idea?
Yep.
You're good?
Thank you.
Thank you. I trust everyone has read the committee reports and the monthly activity reports. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Commercial Savings Bank, Pat and Ryan, for being here tonight, and those individuals that have been involved with the library committees and keeping the project going, and to the council for seeing this through. Are there any other comments from the council, or? If not, I'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Stephen? Yes. Amy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Fleishner?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.